my fellow aviators and my beloved mechanics. Today I'm coming with you and just doing a video on the current status of what's ahead for our new aviators. As they come up through the ranks, they're going through the flight schools right now, and they're spending at least $100,000 to $200,000 to get their private, their instrument, and their multi-engine commercial rating, thinking that they'll have a quick access to getting jobs and paying back these huge, expensive financial aid loans that they're taking out. I've been in this business for about 30 years, being a flight instructor and working as a corporate pilot. I have my FAA Gold Seal flight instructor rating, and working with students has kind of been my life's work now. Over the years, I've trained hundreds, if not thousands, of new pilots to join our ranks and to fill our airlines and our corporate flight departments. And it truly makes me happy and very glad and full of honor to have done so, looking back on a long career. Right now, I am at my wit's end with what's going on and seeing what's happening to our new aviators. There are three things that are currently crushing the jobs for our new pilots. The first one is the ATP rule that was put into place by Congress due to that crash in 2008 in Buffalo, New York. This law was just arbitrarily made up and put into place, and it has hurt the airlines tremendously. Right now, the airlines cannot hire anyone until they have 1,500 hours to meet the ATP requirement. This rule is completely unnecessary, as the captains already have their ATP, and being a captain, I can assure you that the jobs and duties of a first officer is that of talking on the radio, making sure the landing gear is down, and then going through the endless checklists as we go through each flight. This does not require an ATP rating. This, I think, should be one of our main goals to fix, because if it isn't, what's going on now is that my foreign students that I've trained over the years go to other countries where this rule isn't in place. They get jobs at airlines with 250 hours to 300. They get to 1,500 hours, and now they are being welcomed back to the United States to take the jobs away from our sons and daughters that want to be pilots. And because they have the 1,500 hours, the airlines have no choice but to hire these foreign kids to take our airline jobs away from our local students. I think this is wrong and is placing our own sons and daughters at a great disadvantage and denying them their birthright to be American airline pilots. But our sons and daughters are not allowed to go overseas and take these pilot jobs away from native citizens of other countries. And I think it's time that we start resisting this. The second problem that's come up in flight training is that due to the crash in 2019 with my former student, Captain Jerome Rennick, the FAA has put into place a procedure or policy where they hold a flight instructor accountable for their students' performance on check rides. If a flight instructor falls below an 80 or 70% pass rate on the first initial check rides of their students, then that flight instructor is held responsible for that student's performance. They are deemed as bad flight instructors, a risk to aviation safety, and are having their flight instructor ratings revoked or suspended, or a 709 ride. Can you imagine being a young pilot, spending $100,000 to $200,000 getting all your ratings, becoming a flight instructor working for little to no pay, and then to have your future and your job held on the line by somebody else's performance on a test? I don't see in any other industry where this is even taking place. I don't see professors at law school let go because their students don't pass the bar. I don't see medical schools firing their doctors because their students don't pass the medical boards. Why is this being allowed in our industry? This makes no sense to hold someone accountable for somebody else's performance. I think this is wrong. And If there are any flight instructors out there that are facing this situation, I ask that you please contact me, because I will represent you. I will fight for you. And I think this is something that we have to fight for to reverse. The third thing that's preventing our sons and daughters from becoming the next generation of airline pilots is a policy that's recently been changed by the insurance companies. On the corporate side, I've just learned that most insurance companies are now requiring first officers or co-pilots working in 135 operations to have at least 1,000 hours before they can even start as a first officer. Now, our kids are graduating flight schools with about 300 hours, if that, if they don't go to Part 141. So that means they have to somehow find 700 hours out there after they've already spent all their money, they're broke, and then there's no place for them to build hours. As you can see, the whole system now has been set up to deny our future pilots any way to reach it to the airlines, to reach their way to the airlines. This is wrong, and these are just arbitrary rules made up by a government system that's purposely trying to shut down aviation in America. And they're not doing it honestly, they're not doing it up front, they're not telling us. In fact, one of the things that greatly bother me is that I've been starting to bring up these issues with the flight schools, with the colleges, with the universities, even with the flying magazines. What I found is that nobody wants to talk about this, and probably for good reason. What happens if you come up against the FAA or NTSB? They will quickly crush you. If you're an airline pilot, there's no way that you're going to put that $200,000, $300,000 a year job at risk to discuss these issues. So everybody knows what's going on that's in the industry, but no one's telling the new kids what's going on. And I find this to just be wrong. And as part of this channel, I'm going to be an advocate for our new pilots. I want to fight these rules. I want to take this as far as we can. I think it's wrong, and I think it's about time somebody stood up and at least told the new generation of pilots what issues they're looking at and what they need to fix them. Now, the FAA and the NTSB has been imposing these rules on us. They've had absolutely no pushback whatsoever. In fact, with this case with Captain Jerome Rennick suffering a fatal accident in Hawaii, the FAA and the NTSB has determined that I was a bad instructor training Jerome Rennick. I was his only flight instructor, and he failed his check ride the first time round on each check ride. Then a week later, after he would, like on his private pilot license, he would fail his check ride, and then all of a sudden, a week later, and it was a week later because the examiner didn't have time to recheck him, but a week later, and after a half an hour or less than an hour training flight, he goes back and all of a sudden he's right as rain and he's a qualified pilot that meets standards. Same thing happened on his instrument, same thing happened on his multi-engine. In fact, during this time period, it's just standard that some silly donkey in the FAA told the examiners in a meeting that they have to go to on an annual basis that if they didn't have at least a 35% failure rate, that they were losing their job as a designated pilot examiner. This completely screwed up the pilot license process, especially out here in Southern California. Now, these examiners did not want to get in trouble with the FAA, so of course their failure rate wasn't right at 35 or 40%. No, during the time that Jerome Rennick was getting his license, the failure rate went up to 50-60%. It was so bad in the Riverside FSDO area that Washington actually called the FSDO and had a Mr. Dr. Paul Foster give mandatory training to the flight instructors that fell below the 70-80% limit on their initial pass rates on their check ride. I went to that meeting because during this period, My pass rate on initial check rides was 59%. I actually think my pass rate was higher than most of the others. This meeting involved pretty much about 50 flight instructors. That was pretty much all the flight instructors in the Riverside FSDO area. So it was a widespread problem. Then, during the investigation that we'll go through on other videos, the NTSB decided to use this 59% pass rate to deem me as a bad instructor. However, they didn't talk about the pass rate in the local Riverside FSDO area. They used statistics from a national level saying that the pass rate was around 75%. So those will be in other videos. But right now, I just want to talk about some of the solutions that we can start working together to fix these problems. Because I do not wish to pick a fight with the FAA and the NTSB without a solution. There's enough people at the airport talking about all the problems that we have, but not doing anything to fix things. So one of the first solutions that I would like to do is to help out at least 4 students. I plan to take on 4 students a year and help these kids. Now, of course, I have to charge for the flight instruction, but I'm planning on just keeping the cost at around $100,000 to get their private, their instrument, their multi-engine commercial, give them housing, give them use of a car, so all they have to do is pay for their food. And then I'm planning to take the next step, and I will personally finance those 4 students a year to get the extra 1,200 flight hours so that by the time they leave my school, they're going right into the airlines in the current conditions that are facing them. I wish I could help more kids, but I think I can only handle about 4 kids a year doing that. So if you're interested in receiving flight training under those circumstances, please contact me and I'd love to interview you. Another thing that I think that we should try to do as young pilots trying to come up the ranks is remember that our community loves pilots. We're more loved than, say, firemen, definitely more than police officers, a lot more than attorneys. So there's a lot of love and respect out there in the community for us, and our community really wants to support us. So what I suggest that we do is on my channels, I'm going to highlight these 4 kids throughout the year, through their flight training, showing the hardships that they go through, the sacrifices they make, and show the community and try to gain sponsors for them in their local community and to help them out. The second thing that I would like to do is kind of offer my services to go out to the community for the little bit that I can do, I want to do. I would like to get the community involved with supporting aviation in our country. The general public is going to the airport with the airlines failing because there aren't enough pilots, so there's flight cancellations, there's delays. The public knows that there's something going wrong with the aviation community, but nobody's telling them what is going wrong. I wish to change that. I wish that on any aviator that's going through flight training that needs support, I would love to go out and talk to the community, whether it be churches, Rotary groups, any organization that would like to hear a talk on what's going on in the aviation community and the challenges that we're facing, and more importantly, the support that we need to continue. I would like to offer that service and do it. The next thing that I would like to do is with you young kids going through flight training and you flight instructors that don't have a chance, you guys are getting screwed beyond belief. You're going to go through all this training and maybe lose your license if you're a flight instructor due to your students' performance on check rides. You might be a flight student going through training thinking that after this $100,000 or $200,000 worth of student loans or debt that you've taken on, that you're going to step right into a high-paying job, and then at the end of it find out that you don't have the hours to even be qualified, and some other kid from a foreign country has now taken your job. I would be really mad about that if I was in your position. So what I would like to start doing is, how about if we peacefully protest? I think one of the places that we should start is with the insurance companies. These insurance companies are just nameless, faceless bureaucrats sitting in offices making these arbitrary rules with no pushback. I think if I had 10 to 20 first officers with me protesting at their office, protesting at their home, peacefully, as our constitutional rights allow us, I'm sure they would change their mind in a heartbeat. I think these rules of 1,000 hours for co-pilots, I think that was just pulled out of somebody's mind, sitting in a cubicle, just thinking that it would be something to just put on the insurance form. I see that being fixed right away. The second issue with the flight instructors and holding the FAA accountable, I don't see the FAA doing anything to change their ways. I don't see the NTSB. In fact, as a seasoned pilot and mechanic, I cannot tell you how many times I have been told by FAA inspectors that as far as I'm concerned, I'm God. You just do what I say. I've had Roy Peters at the Riverside FSDO lie to my face, and when I questioned him, he just yelled, "We're the federal government, we can do whatever we want." He did that in the front lobby of the Riverside FSDO. Now, the new trainee standing next to him looked a little afraid, but the secretaries didn't blink. I know that the supervisor in the office, he heard it, didn't even bother to come out, so this is a frequent thing. And if you talk to any of the experienced pilots or mechanics, they'll tell you the same thing. So we will not get anywhere by petitioning the FAA or the NTSB. This problem has to be addressed by going to our congressmen and senators. Now, I'll tell you my experience talking to my local congressman. He happens to be a CFII. He's part of our community. I brought up these concerns and filed an official complaint with his office. Well, no response as of yet, but it's only been 4 or 5 months. But I know that he did get my complaint because he sent me out a email to request donations from me. So I know he got it. So I don't think we're going to get anywhere by asking permission. We have to protest, we have to be noisy, and we have to make demands for change to happen. I see that the only way going forward. Now, I do not know everything, and I'm open to any suggestions. If any of you young pilots or old pilots, please contact me and let me know what you think that we should do or what course that we should happen. I would just want to resolve these issues and see the next generation of pilots get their jobs, being corporate pilots, being airline pilots. What's going on right now is there won't be any kids in the current pipeline to become pilots. None of them, hardly any of them will be pilots. And just nobody cares. Nobody's saying anything. All these colleges and universities and flight schools and flying magazines that talk about how they love pilots and they're just there to take care of these kids, they're not doing a thing. They're not saying a word. And when I talk to them, the first thing they want to do is get as far away from me as possible. So there's no help coming, and I wish to make it happen, to at least start something that maybe somebody else will finish, but at least will get you kids the opportunity to have a great and wonderful career that I've had in this country as an American aviator. This is your birthright. You guys deserve the right to become a pilot if you do the training and you earn your wings. You do not deserve your opportunity to be taken away by some nameless bureaucrat, by some policy that makes no sense, and to lose that and not even be told why. So at least, if I do nothing else, at least I'll let you guys know what's going on in the aviation community and the challenges that you face. Now, I need first officers to help me. If you're going through flight school, you're a flight instructor, or one of these pilots that go out to the airport and sit around and talk to the other pilots. I need help. I need support. I'm just one pilot. I'm pretty tenacious, but I'm still just one person. I need help with web design, making a website. I need help with video productions. As you can see, this isn't a top of the line video. It's just the best that I can do. This isn't my field. I'm not good at this. I'm really good in an airplane, but everything else seems to be a little less than that. Now, I'm also planning on putting together a flying magazine to help address these issues, to help expose what's going on in the aviation community and the abuses that the FAA and the NTSB have been continually doing. Right now, the FAA and the NTSB has been riding on our coattails. The coattails of airline pilots, corporate pilots, the pilots that the American public trusts with their lives and adore. And then we have these bureaucrats who are no longer pilots, who are no longer mechanics, who are abusing the pilots and mechanics that they are supposed to be supporting. And they are riding our coattails, and the public are looking at them as the same. I wish to stop that. I want the public to see the FAA FSDO for what they are and the NTSB for what they are. Now, I'd like to preface this with, I am not talking about the air traffic controllers that we have. The FAA air controllers are the best in the world. I have personally been in the airplane where I've heard them take care of student pilots on their solo cross country. I've been in a broken airplane in bad weather and had their support. When I'm up in icing conditions and thunderstorms, I hear the same fear in their voice as they're talking to the fellow pilots trying to get us into the ground safely. I have the highest respect for the FAA controllers, and I want to say that at every chance that I get. The last 30 years, they have been the best people ever, and they are right with us. They're part of our community. When I talk about the FAA, it is about the Flight Standard District Office and the management and the NTSB, who have not been part of our community for years, have little to no interest in aviation safety, and are more concerned about enforcing arbitrary, meaningless rules to just get violations on us. I've had them lie to my face. I've had them steal documents. I've had them redact information just because they didn't want to share it. This is the issues that I would like to address, and I ask my new aviators and the aviators that are in your career and at the end of your career to help me help the new guys. I think that's the greatest issue that we need to face right now, is to protect our young. So I ask for your help, and I thank you so much for watching this video. Peace.